The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the known universe gathered in the floating citadel, their attention fixed on the latest discovery report. A new spacefaring species had been detected in a spiral arm of the galaxy, and the initial scans were now being displayed on the giant holographic screen. Admiral James Stone stood tall in his crisp blue uniform aboard the bridge of the HFY Defender, Earth's flagship. At 60 years old, his gray hair and battle-worn face told stories of countless space battles against pirates and raiders. Now, he led humanity's first diplomatic fleet toward the Galactic Council's headquarters. 5 ships, the pride of Earth's fleet, cruised in perfect formation through the star-studded void. Back in the council chamber, laughter erupted as the scans appeared. Council member Torrax, a tall being with silvery skin and 4 arms, pointed at the readings with obvious amusement. "These can't be right," he said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic speech. "The vessels are barely larger than our transport shuttles." The chief scanner operator, a bug-like creature, double-checked the readings. "The scans are accurate, council member. The largest vessel in their approaching fleet is only 300 meters in length." More laughter filled the chamber. In a galaxy where the smallest military vessels typically stretched over a kilometer in length, and battleships routinely reached 10 kilometers, these human ships seemed like toys. Aboard the Defender, Stone's first officer, Tom Harris, monitored the approaching council station. "Sir, they're scanning us again. That's the 5th time in the last hour." Stone smiled slightly. "Let them scan. We have nothing to hide." He knew what they were seeing. The Defender, at 300 meters long, led 4 200-meter corvettes. To Earth, these ships represented decades of technological advancement and engineering brilliance. To the galaxy at large, apparently, they were a joke. The Council's reception dock loomed ahead, a massive structure designed for ships many times larger than the human vessels. As Stone's fleet approached, they looked like rowboats pulling up to an aircraft carrier. "Receiving docking instructions," Harris reported. "They want us to use the auxiliary maintenance bay." His voice carried a note of insult. Stone kept his composure. "Acknowledge their instructions. Perfect precision, everyone. Let's show them how well these tiny ships can move." The human fleet executed a flawless docking maneuver, their smaller size allowing them to move with grace that would have been impossible for larger vessels. Several alien dock workers stopped their tasks to watch, their expressions mixing confusion with reluctant admiration. Hours later, Stone stood before the Galactic Council, his back straight and his voice firm as he presented Earth's formal request for membership. The chamber, designed to intimidate with its towering ceiling and massive architecture, seemed to reflect the Council's opinion of humanity, that they were small and insignificant. Council member Torrax spoke first after the presentation. "Admiral Stone, while we appreciate your species' ambition, we have serious concerns. Your military presence is inadequate. The galaxy is a dangerous place. How could ships of such minimal size hope to defend your territories?" Stone began to explain about Earth's advanced propulsion systems and revolutionary weapons technology, but another council member cut him off. This one resembled a tentacled cloud of gas contained within an environmental suit. "Admiral, our smallest defensive vessels are 3 times the size of your largest ship. The Drachnid Empire's light cruisers are 5 times larger. Size equals power. This is a universal constant." Stone felt his jaw tighten, but maintained his diplomatic composure. "Council members, I respectfully suggest that size is not everything. Our ships—" Laughter interrupted him again. Torrax raised 2 of his 4 hands for silence. "Admiral, we mean no disrespect, but we cannot accept a species that would be unable to defend itself or contribute to galactic security. Perhaps in a few centuries, when your technology has grown up a bit." As Stone left the council chamber, he heard the whispers and chuckles behind him. His communicator buzzed. A message from Earth Command requesting an update. He drafted a short response. Council meeting complete. Membership denied. Request permission to initiate Operation Pocket Rocket if necessary. The reply came quickly. Permission granted. Let's hope they never need to learn why we build our ships this way. As the human fleet departed the council station, Stone watched the massive alien vessels moving ponderously through space. Each one was huge, impressive, and to his experienced eye, ridiculously oversized. He thought about the classified reports on his desk, the ones detailing Drachnid Empire ships moving toward human space. They'll learn, he muttered. Size isn't everything. And sometimes the smallest dogs bite the hardest. 3 months after the failed council meeting, Admiral Stone stood at the viewing window of Earth's orbital command station. His eyes tracked the movement of dozens of human ships performing combat drills against the backdrop of Earth's blue sphere. The ships darted and weaved like schools of fish, their formations tight and precise. Another incursion report, sir, said Tom Harris, walking onto the observation deck with a data tablet. The Drachnid Empire crossed into the Ross 154 system yesterday. 3rd time this month. Stone took the tablet, his face growing hard as he read. The Drachnids were getting bolder. Their massive ships, each one looking like a floating metal city, had been pushing closer to human space every week. They weren't even trying to hide their intentions anymore. How many ships? Stone asked, still reading. 5 capital ships, sir, each one about 7 kilometers long. Harris paused. They're calling us the Ant Colony in their broadcasts now. Stone handed back the tablet. Ants, are we? A slight smile crossed his face. They should study their Earth history. Ants can lift 50 times their body weight. The station's alert system suddenly flashed red. A young officer burst onto the deck, his face pale. Admiral, emergency transmission from mining outpost Beta. The Drachnids. They've declared their intention to claim the territory of the inadequate species. Stone's response was immediate. Launch the Deep Space Defense Fleet. All ships, combat ready. Execute Operation Pocket Rocket. Across Earth's orbital space, dozens of tiny human ships sprang to life. None were larger than 300 meters, but they moved with incredible speed and precision. Within minutes, 50 vessels had formed up into attack squadrons. In the council chamber, the news of the Drachnid movement caused quite a different reaction. Council member Torax watched the tactical displays with what passed for a frown on his alien face. The humans have nowhere near enough ship mass to resist, he said. Perhaps we should have admitted them. At least then, they would have our protection. Another council member, studying the readings, spoke up. Strange. Our long-range scans show their ships are moving at unusually high speeds. Must be a malfunction in the sensors. In deep space, aboard his massive flagship, Drachnid Supreme Commander Krell surveyed the holographic tactical display. His species resembled Earth's ancient dragons in their environmental suits, a fact that had given them their human nickname. Report on the human defensive formation, he ordered. His tactical officer responded with amusement in his voice. Their entire fleet appears to be mobilizing, Commander. Pathetic, really. Their largest vessel is smaller than our crew quarters section. They're arranging themselves in some sort of scattered formation. Krall zoomed in on the tactical display. Something about the human fleet's movement pattern bothered him, but he couldn't quite place what. Their ships were spreading out in what seemed like a random pattern, but each movement looked too precise to be random. Send the standard surrender demand, Krall ordered. Tell them to evacuate their colonies and surrender their space to the worthy. The message was sent. The response came back almost immediately, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of words, the humans transmitted a single image, an ancient Earth photograph of a tiny boxing glove. On the bridge of the ESS Defender, Stone watched his fleet execute the first phase of Operation Pocket Rocket. The ships spread out in a complex three-dimensional pattern that looked chaotic to outside observers, but followed a carefully planned mathematical model. All ships report ready, Admiral. Harris said. The Drachnids are still approaching in standard heavy formation. They're not even trying to maneuver. Stone nodded. Why would they? Their ships are so big. They think they're invincible. He opened a channel to the fleet. Remember your training. Size makes them strong, but it also makes them slow. We've built our ships small for a reason. Time to show them why. The Drachnid fleet grew larger on their view screens, their massive ships blocking out the stars behind them. Each one bristled with weapons that could vaporize a human vessel with a single hit if they could hit them. All ships, Stone commanded, his voice calm and steady, execute attack pattern Delta. Let's show these giants what happens when they pick a fight with ants. The human fleet burst into action, and the real battle was about to begin. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity's ships were small by design, not by limitation. The mining colony on Beta 7 was small but valuable, its automated systems extracting rare minerals from the asteroid belt. When 3 massive Drachnid warships appeared at its perimeter, the few human workers there knew they were in trouble. Look at that tiny response force, laughed the Drachnid captain aboard the lead ship, watching as 3 human corvettes rushed to defend the colony. Each human ship was barely visible against the backdrop of space, like specks of dust compared to the Drachnid vessels. Just 3 little ships. This will be over quickly. The 3 human corvettes were under the command of Captain Mark Wilson aboard the ESS Swift. At just 200 meters long, the Swift and her sister ships, Thunder and Lightning, looked like toys next to the 5-kilometer-long Drachnid warships. All ships, execute defense pattern Echo, Wilson ordered calmly. Remember your training. They may be bigger, but we're faster, much faster. The Drachnid captain opened fire first, massive energy beams lighting up space. To his surprise, the human ships simply weren't there when the beams arrived. The tiny vessels moved with impossible speed, changing direction faster than their targeting computers could track. What's wrong with our targeting systems? The Drachnid captain roared. Fix them now. Nothing's wrong, sir, his weapons officer replied, confusion in his voice. Their acceleration. It's beyond anything we've ever seen. Our targeting can't keep up. The 3 human corvettes split up, each one moving in a different direction. Their size, which had been mocked across the galaxy, suddenly became their greatest advantage. The smaller mass of the human ships, combined with their advanced engines, let them pull maneuvers that would have torn larger ships apart. Show them what these tiny ships can do, Wilson commanded. Execute attack run Alpha. The Swift dove straight toward the lead Drachnid vessel, moving so fast it appeared as a blur on their screens. The Drachnids fired again and again, but hitting the human ship was like trying to shoot a fly with a cannon. Theoretically possible, but practically impossible. When the Swift was just 2 kilometers from the Drachnid ship, it opened fire. Railroad-sized mass driver cannons, taking up most of the small ship's interior, launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The shots struck with pinpoint accuracy, piercing the Drachnid vessel's shields as if they weren't there. Impossible. The Drachnid captain shouted as warning alarms blared. How can such a small ship carry such powerful weapons? The answer became clear as the Thunder and Lightning joined the attack. What the human ships lacked in size, they made up for in concentration of firepower. Every cubic meter of their small hulls was optimized for combat performance, with no space wasted on the luxuries that filled the massive Drachnid ships. On the council station, the battle recordings caused an uproar. Council member Torax watched in stunned silence as the 3 tiny human ships danced around their massive opponents, striking with surgical precision. Their design philosophy, he muttered. We completely misunderstood it. They didn't build small ships because they had to. They built them because it was better. Back at the battle, the Drachnid ships were in chaos. Their weapons, designed to fight other large vessels, were useless against targets that could change direction faster than their turrets could turn. Their shields, calibrated for sustained bombardment, couldn't adapt to the intense, focused strikes from the human weapons. "This is Drachnid Command Vessel Striker," the Drachnid captain broadcast, his voice shaking. "We are withdrawing from human space. Please cease fire." Captain Wilson allowed himself a small smile as he watched the massive ships retreat, one of them trailing debris from precision strikes to its engine section. "This is Captain Wilson of the Human Defense Force. Message received. Remember to tell your leaders what you learned here today." The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. The mining colony was safe, and not a single human ship was lost. As Wilson prepared his report for Admiral Stone, he knew this was just the beginning. The Drachnids wouldn't take this humiliation lightly, but now they knew that size wasn't everything. On the bridge of the Swift, Wilson's first officer shook his head in amazement. "Did you see their faces on the video feed when we made that first high-G turn?" Wilson nodded. "They designed their ships to look impressive. We designed ours to fight. Sometimes the smallest punch hits the hardest." As the three corvettes took up defensive positions around the mining colony, news of the battle was already spreading across the galaxy. The age of the giant warships was about to end, and humanity's tiny fleet had struck the first blow. The Drachnid War Council chamber shook with angry roars. Supreme Commander Krall slammed his armored fist on the holographic display table, causing the image to flicker. "How?" he demanded. "How did three tiny ships defeat our advanced warships? I want answers." The head of Drachnid Engineering, an old veteran named Gax, stepped forward with a data crystal. "We've analyzed the battle recordings, Commander. The humans." He paused, clearly uncomfortable. "The humans aren't primitive at all. They're far ahead of us in several key areas." The room fell silent as Gax displayed the analysis. Detailed scans of the human ships appeared in the air, with key systems highlighted. "First, their fusion drives," Gax explained. "While we use massive engines to power our ships, they've somehow miniaturized fusion technology. Their engines are 1/10 the size of ours, but produce twice the power." In Earth's orbital command station, Admiral Stone was having a very different meeting. He stood before the combined Earth Defense Council, explaining why he had authorized the release of their advanced technology in combat. "They needed to see it," Stone said firmly. "The Drachnids only respect power. Now they've seen what our ships can really do." On the main screen behind him, technical readouts scrolled past. The features that made human ships superior were highlighted: compact fusion reactors, revolutionary inertial dampeners, and advanced targeting systems. Back in the Drachnid war room, Gax continued his presentation. "Their inertial dampening technology is beyond anything we've seen. That's why their ships can make such sharp turns without breaking apart. Our crews would be crushed by such maneuvers, but their technology perfectly counters the G-forces." Krell's eyes narrowed. "And their weapons?" "That's the most impressive part," Gax replied, bringing up new images. "Their rail guns are masterpieces of engineering. While we rely on energy weapons that require massive power banks, they've perfected kinetic weapons, small projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds, carrying more punch than our largest cannons." The Drachnid Council chamber erupted in heated discussion. One officer spoke up above the noise. "But why build such small ships at all? Surely they could make larger vessels with this technology." Gax shook his head. "That's what we didn't understand. The smaller size isn't a weakness, it's intentional. Their ships are small because that's the optimal size for their technology. Any larger would actually make them less effective." Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council headquarters, emergency sessions were being held. Council member Torax presented the latest analysis to his fellow representatives. "Look at their point defense systems," he said, showing footage of a human corvette effortlessly shooting down incoming missiles. "Compact, fast-tracking turrets with predictive AI. While our ships rely on thick armor and shields, they simply don't get hit at all." A reptilian council member hissed in concern. "The Drachnids are mobilizing their entire fleet. Over 300 capital ships are heading toward human space." Torax studied the tactical display. The humans are outnumbered 20 to 1 in ship count, and their total fleet mass is less than 1% of the Drachnid armada. But after what we've seen, he left the thought unfinished. Back on the ESF Defender, Admiral Stone reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Drachnid invasion fleet was massive, a wall of metal stretching across space. Most species would have surrendered at the sight of it. They still think size equals power, Stone said to his officers. They've packed their ships with crew quarters, recreation areas, and comfortable spaces. Our ships are nothing but engine, weapons, and essential systems, every cubic meter optimized for combat. Harris, his first officer, pointed to the tactical display. They're spreading out, sir, trying to copy our formation patterns. Stone smiled slightly. But their ships are too big and slow to do it effectively. You can't teach an elephant to dance like a cat. He turned to his communication officer. Send word to all ships. Execute Operation Pocket Rocket, Phase 2. It's time to show them everything we can do. As orders went out across the human fleet, Stone watched his tiny ships move into position. The Drachnids were about to learn that in space combat, bigger isn't always better. Sometimes, it just makes you a bigger target. The space around Proxima Centauri lit up like a Christmas tree. 300 massive Drachnid warships formed a wall of metal and energy weapons, their huge forms blocking out the red dwarf star behind them. Facing them were 70 human vessels, looking like a handful of fireflies against their enormous opponents. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Defender, his face calm as he studied the tactical display. The Drachnid fleet stretched for thousands of kilometers, each ship larger than a small city. They're broadcasting, sir, reported his communications officer. Supreme Commander Krull wants to speak with you. The large, dragon-like face of Krull appeared on the main screen. Admiral Stone, he rumbled, your bravery is admirable, but foolish. Surrender now. You cannot hope to defeat a fleet of this size. Stone's response would later become famous across the galaxy. Size isn't everything, Commander. Allow me to demonstrate why. He cut the transmission and opened a channel to all human ships. Execute Proxima maneuver. All ships, full combat speed. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The human fleet suddenly accelerated to speeds that made the Drachnid targeting systems useless. But instead of spreading out, they did something unexpected. They charged straight at the center of the Drachnid line. They're committing suicide. Krull laughed. All ships, open fire. The space between the fleets filled with energy beams and plasma torpedoes. But the human ships moved in a complex, spiraling pattern that one survivor would later describe as a dance of fireflies through a lightning storm. Not a single shot hit its target. Now, Stone commanded as his fleet reached the optimal range. Break formation. The human fleet exploded outward in all directions, like a seed pod bursting. The maneuver, impossible for larger ships to copy, scattered the small human vessels throughout the Drachnid formation before they could react. What are they doing? Krull demanded, watching as human ships darted between his massive vessels. Find them. Track them. But tracking was impossible. The human ships used their superior maneuverability to stay in the blind spots of the Drachnid weapons. The massive alien ships, trying to target the small, fast-moving vessels, began hitting each other instead. Sir, Harris called out on the Defender. The Drachnids are splitting their formation, trying to clear their firing lines. Stone nodded, just as planned. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. Pick your targets and show them what our tiny ships can do. The human fleet struck like a swarm of angry hornets. Rail gunshots, accelerated to near-light speed, punched through Drachnid shields designed to stop slower, energy-based weapons. The human ships darted from target to target, their small size allowing them to get closer than any large ship would dare. On his flagship, Krull watched in horror as his fleet fell into chaos. The human vessels were inside his formation, too close for his big guns to track. His ships were firing blindly, causing more damage to their own fleet than to the enemy. Hard to fight when you can't hit what you're shooting at, isn't it? Stone's voice came over the comm system. As if to emphasize his point, the Defender streaked past Krell's bridge viewport, so close that the Drachnid commander could see its hull markings. A second later, precision rail gunfire disabled his flagship's main engines. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, 40 Drachnid ships had been destroyed, and another 100 were severely damaged. Not a single human vessel was lost, though several had taken minor damage. The remaining Drachnid ships retreated in disarray, their tight formation now scattered across the star system. The Proxima maneuver had proven that humanity's approach to ship design wasn't just different, it was superior. As Stone watched the Drachnid fleet withdraw, Harris approached with a datapad. "Sir, the Galactic Council is requesting a full report on the battle." Stone smiled slightly. "Tell them we'll provide a complete tactical analysis. It's time they learned why we build our ships the way we do." He paused, looking at the tactical display showing his small ships regrouping. Sometimes the best things come in small packages. The Battle of Proxima would go down in history as the day the galaxy learned that true power comes from innovation, not size. The age of the giant warships was over, and humanity's tiny fleet had proven why. The Galactic Council chamber was completely silent as the battle recordings played. Gone were the laughs and mocking comments about tiny ships. Instead, hundreds of alien representatives watched in stunned amazement as the footage showed human vessels dancing through the massive Drachnid fleet. Council member Torx stood before his fellow representatives, his silver skin reflecting the holographic displays. What we witnessed at Proxima was not just a battle. It was a revolution in space warfare. The recording showed a human corvette, barely visible against the backdrop of space, effortlessly dodging fire from a Drachnid battleship before disappearing into the giant vessel's blind spot. Seconds later, precision shots disabled the battleship's main guns. "We were wrong," Torx continued, "completely and utterly wrong about human technology. Their small ships aren't a sign of weakness. They're the product of superior engineering." In another part of the galaxy, aboard a massive Drachnid repair station, Supreme Commander Krell faced his own military council. The mood was grim as damage reports scrolled across multiple screens. 40 ships lost, a Drachnid officer reported, his voice shaking. 100 more needing major repairs. And the humans? He paused, checking his data tablet. Lost none. Not a single ship destroyed. Krell stared at the tactical analysis of the battle. How do they move like that? Our best helmsmen can't match their maneuvers. The head engineer stepped forward. It's their size. Commander, the smaller the ship, the faster it can turn, the quicker it can accelerate. Our massive vessels, while impressive to look at, are simply too big to match their performance. Back at Earth's orbital command, Admiral Stone was meeting with representatives from 12 different alien species. All of them had come with the same request. They wanted to learn about human ship design. "Your vessels," one alien ambassador said, "they achieve perfect thrust-to-mass ratios. Our scientists say it should be impossible in ships that small." Stone smiled. "That's because you've been thinking bigger is better. We designed our ships around the crew, not the other way around. Every cubic meter serves a purpose. No wasted space." Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The Drachnid Empire's reputation for invincibility was shattered. Other species, long intimidated by massive warships, began to question traditional ship design philosophy. In a secure briefing room, Stone showed the alien representatives detailed scans of a human corvette. "Notice how our fusion drives are compact, but powerful. Our life support systems are optimized for combat crews only. No luxury quarters, no massive recreation areas, just pure fighting efficiency." One of the ambassadors, a being composed of crystalline structures, spoke up. "But surely larger ships could carry more weapons." "More isn't always better," Stone replied. He brought up a comparison display. "See this. A Drachnid battleship's main gun takes up the same space as 50 of our railguns. Their gun fires once every 30 seconds. In that time, our smaller ships can fire hundreds of shots and change position multiple times. The tactical implications were spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Shipyards that had specialized in building massive vessels began receiving cancellation notices. Everyone wanted smaller, faster ships based on human designs. Council member Torax, reviewing the latest reports in his private chamber, coined a phrase that would soon spread across the galaxy: the Tiny Terror Fleet. It was a name born of respect, not mockery. On the Drachnid homeworld, their military leadership faced a difficult truth. Their entire naval doctrine, based on overwhelming size and firepower, was obsolete. Young officers were already calling for reforms, for new ships built on human principles. The rules of space combat have changed. Torax announced to the Council, the humans didn't just win a battle at Proxima. They proved that our fundamental understanding of space warfare was wrong. As the day ended, Admiral Stone stood at his favorite viewing window on the orbital command station. Below him, Earth's shipyards were busy with new construction. But now they weren't just building ships for humanity. Orders were coming in from across the galaxy. They finally understand, he said to Harris, who stood beside him. In space, agility beats size, efficiency beats brute force, and innovation. He paused, watching a new Corvette-class vessel complete its test flight. Innovation beats tradition every time. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's tiny fleet had started a revolution that would reshape space warfare forever. 1 year after the Battle of Proxima, the Galactic Council's Great Chamber looked very different. Where once massive alien warships had dominated the space around the station, now vessels of all sizes moved with precision and grace. Many of them were human designs or inspired by human technology. Admiral Stone stood at the council podium, his blue uniform adorned with new medals. Before him, representatives from every spacefaring race had gathered for a historic moment. The Drachnid Empire, Stone announced, reading from an official document, hereby formally surrenders all claims to human space and acknowledges the superiority of Earth's naval technology. Supreme Commander Krull, now wearing the simple uniform of a peace envoy, stepped forward to sign the document. His massive form towered over Stone, but there was respect in his eyes where once there had been only contempt. "You taught us an important lesson, Admiral," Krull said, his translator converting his growling voice. "The greatest power comes not from size, but from wisdom in how you use what you have." Council member Torax, who had once laughed at human ships, now stood to make an announcement. The Galactic Council hereby formally apologizes to humanity for our previous dismissal of their technology. Furthermore, we are proud to announce that Admiral Stone will lead a new galactic defense initiative to modernize all member fleets. The chamber erupted in applause. On the massive screens behind the podium, footage played showing new shipyards across the galaxy. The enormous vessels of the past were being replaced by smaller, more efficient designs based on human principles. Earth's shipyards are operating at full capacity, Stone reported to the Council. In the past year, we've received orders for over 500 vessels from 30 different species. Our engineers are working with alien designers to adapt our technology to their needs. In orbit around Earth, the changes were clear to see. The massive alien ships that once dwarfed human vessels were gone, replaced by sleek new designs that emphasized efficiency over size. Even the Drachnids have begun launching their first compact warships, though at 500 meters they were still larger than human vessels. "Look at this," Harris said to Stone later that day, showing him a data tablet. The Drachnid Empire's new flagship. They're calling it the Learned Humility. It's half the size of their old ships, but twice as effective. Stone smiled at the irony. Sometimes the biggest change comes from thinking smaller. In the Council's military archive, a new display had been set up. It showed a hologram of a human corvette next to a traditional Drachnid battleship. The size difference was striking, But now it told a different story. Beneath it, Stone's famous words were inscribed. "We didn't build small ships because we had to. We built them because they're better." The Galactic Survey Corps had updated their first contact protocols. No longer would they judge a species' advancement by the size of their ships. Instead, they looked for signs of efficiency, innovation, and tactical thinking. At Earth's main shipyard, Stone watched as workers installed the final plates on a new vessel. It was a joint project, a ship designed by humans, but modified to suit alien crews. At 250 meters, it was a perfect blend of human efficiency and alien technology. "The future of space warfare," he said to the gathered crowd of human and alien engineers, "isn't about building bigger ships. It's about building smarter ones." A young alien engineer raised her hand. "Admiral, what made humans think differently? Why did you choose to build small when everyone else built big?" Stone thought for a moment before answering. "On Earth, we have a saying, work smarter, not harder. When we looked at space combat, we didn't ask how to build the biggest ship. We asked how to build the best ship. Size was just one factor, and in the end, it wasn't the most important one." As the ceremony ended, Stone returned to his favorite viewing window at Orbital Command. The space around Earth was busy with ships of all species, most of them now built to human scale and specifications. The giant vessels that once dominated space travel were becoming museum pieces. "They called us the Tiny Fleet," he said quietly, watching a formation of new corvettes practice maneuvers. "Now they call us teachers." Humanity had changed the galaxy not through overwhelming force or superior numbers, but through innovation and efficiency. The era of the giant warships was over, and a new age of smart, efficient space combat had begun. And it all started because some aliens mocked a tiny fleet.